Welcome back to the Brothers Mahoney. This is Michael,
And I am James.
and today we are discussing the first episode of The War Between the Land and the Sea, which is the new 5 episode miniseries spin-off of Doctor Who featuring Unit and the Sea Devils, hopefully in a better form than what we got in Legend of the Sea Devils.
Lads and the Sea Devils for the win. The very best Sea Devil stuff I've ever seen, brah.
Indeed. And episode 1 is titled Homo Aqua, which is the name, sort of like almost a rebranding. Sea Devils might be seen as somewhat old fashioned, so they're trying to give them a new styling, as it were.
I thought it was kind of funny how they did that. I think part of it is just in reference to they got the name wrong on the Solarians. So then they tried to fix it in the Sea Devils because it wasn't the Solarian era, it was another era. And then they got the era wrong again. So they can never get it right. And I think it's fine to stick with Homo Aqua. It's not a name I love, but I get it. And plus, I enjoy the little Manson of, oh, we don't live in superstitious times anymore. That was kind of funny.
And the episode was written by Russell T Davies, and it aired December 7th, 2025 in the United Kingdom on both BBC One and the BBC iPlayer. I'm assuming that's some type of app. I'm not really sure. Point being, they first aired in the United Kingdom for us yesterday, and it's not airing in the US or in fact anywhere else until was it January 2026 on Disney Plus.
Yes, and I don't know if you have a date for that yet.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that, well, as you can imagine, we are not British, so we just happened to find it online, and here we are. So here we saved ourselves some time.
Actually, I was going to say we move to the UK for the next 3 weeks. So don't worry about.
It's like every time I smoke weed, yeah, I just did it up in Michigan, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very convincing. Yeah, no, so we moved to the UK on a strange pirate ship. I don't know how that happened. But either way, we just got finished watching the first episode, and we are going to be discussing these episode by episode. So even though they released two in one day and they'll do the same thing next week, we are only going to discuss it, well, like I said, episode by episode. We have not seen the second episode yet. Although I must say, I'm kind of interested because I thought on the whole, this was not a bad beginning at all. Maybe a little slow because depending on if they change episode length, they do only have 5 of these, but I guess we'll see as it goes on.
And that's for the plot when it deals with the character Barclay, who is a low-level worker unit, and his ordinary life becomes more when an ancient species rises from the sea, being of course the Sea Devils. As Unit fights for control of the situation, the Sea Devils reveal themselves to the world, and at a summit on the Thames, request that Barclay become the ambassador to Earth. And that is actually indeed how the episode ends, and he agrees to do so. Now, whether that Unit is going to let him agree, it's a different question, but hey, as James said, there's only 4 more episodes, so let's just assume they say yes.
I don't know if they can say no. They can try. Honestly, they might not have a choice, Unit, because the Sea Devils, and I'm going to call them the Sea Devils just because I've known them as the Sea Devils forever. It's no disrespect to the species, Homo Aqua is fine. But the leader of the Sea Devils, who in this episode was unnamed, but I believe will go by the name South. I'm sure there's a reason for that. We'll see next episode, I would assume. Just pointed him out and said, no, we want him to be the representative of mankind due to the fact that when he saw the body of the first sea devil who was killed by these fishermen on the ship in the Mediterranean, he showed some respect to the body, and the leader of the sea devils appreciated that. So, ergo, they would like him to be the ambassador. And I wish him the best of luck, knowing Earth governments, it's usually not that easy. But hopefully they stick with it. But I've seen, and Michael hasn't, but I've seen Children of Earth and Miracle Days, so you really, and I exist, so you really can't put much faith into most Earth governments.
I trust it usually goes well, and I guess we'll find out eventually. And as for the characters in this one, there's a handful that are probably important. Like James said, we haven't seen episode 2 yet, but given there are only 5 episodes, it's not like there's a ton of time to play around with, so if they take the time to introduce someone, I'm going to assume they have some importance. So we start out with Barclay Pierre-Dupont, played by Russell Tovey. They have a kid named Corby, played by Kat Gannon, who doesn't do a ton this episode, but I imagine down the line they will. There's a Sergeant Hannah Chakri, played by Francesca Corney. We have General Austin Pierce, played by Colin McFarlane, who, interestingly enough, apparently appeared in Children of Earth, which, like James just said, I have not seen. James has. I'm assuming, James, you remember this character?
I thought he looked familiar, but I didn't actively recognize him while we were watching. And I went back on the TARDIS wiki page just to catch up to what the character was up to in Children of Earth. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's Children of Earth. It's one of the most depressing things ever written. He was not a great character in terms of morality in that. Although, interestingly enough, I think TARDIS wiki mentioned he worked for the American military at that point. So depending on how you see it, he has perhaps gotten an upgrade now working for UNIT.
And actually, speaking of UNIT, we have the return of Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, played by Jemma Redgrave, Colonel Christopher Abraham, played by Alexander Devrient, and Shirley Bingham, played by Ruth Madeley. And it's worth mentioning that these people barely appear, like they have maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes of screen time total in this episode. Now, I have to imagine down the line they will get more screen time. But most of the episode is focused around Barclay and his experience meeting and seeing this Sea Devil situation. So they did get a lot to do here, but down the line. Well, speaking of which, we also did get a brief appearance of Trinity Wowers again. So it's nice to see that she's still kicking.
I mean, it's what you expect. Russell T Davies writes something and Trinity Wallace appears. Could you imagine the chaos he must get? Oh, hey, you need to just do a news thing, mention, I don't know, a Sea Devil or something. We'll just need it for the next episode.
And then the other people who might matter, we have a Sir Jonathan Hines, played by Adrian Lucas, who is set up to be the ambassador between the Homo Aqua and the humans. However, it's unclear to me that he's going to have a lot to do the next couple of episodes because he's sort of been overtaken by Barclay. So he may or may not matter. I really don't know. I suspect not, but he has some charm to him. As James mentioned, the leader right now, the Sea Devils, who later, I guess, is known under the name Salt. Right now, it's unnamed, but they were played by Agugu Bathara, and they only appear toward the end of the episode, so we don't know a ton about them. They speak English, though.
And they also speak Russian.
Oh, that's true, too. And lastly, we see the UK Prime Minister, a guy named Harry Shah, played by Vincent Franklin, who I have to imagine we haven't seen before.
Well, as of right now, they don't even have a page on the TARDIS wiki. So I think it's pretty safe to say we have not seen this Prime Minister before. Now, interesting, and I'm going to talk about this for only a second. When it comes to a show like Doctor Who, they play pretty fast and loose with prime ministers. We saw, of course, a prime minister who died during the Aliens in London World War III two-part we discussed, I guess, last year. Maybe 2 years ago. It's unclear to me. But we also had a prime minister named Brian Greene, who was the prime minister in the aforementioned Children of Earth. And then we had a Prime Minister Cameron who showed up during the Miracle Day story. And I don't remember him having a big amount to do with Miracle Day, the story as a whole. But he was there. And while I don't remember him specifically, I know, like anything else in Miracle Day, he probably sucked too. And when I say that, I mean the government officials in Miracle Day. I actually might be the sole defender of that season of Torchwood. I thought it was kind of fun. But Michael hasn't seen it, so I can't talk too much about it. But either way, this is yet another new prime minister. Maybe he'll become the Minister of War, who knows? But for now, it's just Harry Shah. I must say, with the very small bit that we saw of him, I think once again he's going to be another not great prime minister in terms of, well, really anything. Though maybe he'll be better than Harry Saxon when he was prime minister for the time that he was. At the very least, this one probably won't kill his entire council.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that James and I haven't exactly kept up to date in the ongoings of the recent Doctor Who community. So I have no idea how much attention this show is getting. I have to imagine. Honestly, it seems like the type of show only particularly die-hard Doctor Who fans would be watching.
Or vice versa, people watch it with no idea that it's related to Doctor Who. Now, the Doctor is mentioned during one conversation in this episode, but only once. So, watching Doctor Who is probably not required to watch this in the slightest.
Yeah, and only being on like the BBC iPlayer and BBC One in the UK, it's going to limit audience anyway. I have no idea what the reaction to this one generally is. I think it's an okay episode. It seems like it has a 6.9 on IMDb. Now, on IMDb, they usually skew higher for episodes of a series than they do for individual movies, so it may not mean much. But it's also true that only like what 420 some people have rated the actual episode on IMDb, which isn't that many people. But again, it's not surprising for like a single episode. It looks like the series as a whole. I'm sorry, yeah, the series as a whole has 420 people who rated it. The individual episode just has 269 right now. And I did want to mention that the title, The War Between the Land and Sea, I feel like it's just too much of a mouthful. I feel like
Yeah, why
that
do they call that when it's at home?
like I think there was a poster that just had the war between, which is sort of vague, but honestly, if they had kept that title, I would have been okay with it. That said, but this is only going to be 5 episodes, and I imagine that, in all honesty, 2 years from now, no one's going to remember the series existed unless something big happens in like episode 5, where like Billie Piper comes in as a doctor to finish up things. But I just don't think she's a doctor, and I don't think it's going to happen. So.
Whereas I do think, hypothetically, there's no reason she sort of be the Doctor. And also, something big has happened. Once again, humanity has been shown proof of maybe not alien life in this case, but non-human sentient life
Well,
on Earth.
the funny thing is, I was thinking about them when I was watching the episode. I don't really think it's a big deal. Like they've seen this how many times now? Like
I
to
mean,
them, it's just like a fucking Sunday.
yeah, but that's a very unclear question. Like, what were they told about the giggle?
I have no idea. We've brought this up before, and I have no idea what the average citizen of the Earth knows about alien life form, or even, like James said, these aren't aliens, these are just pre-human life forms. So it's hard to say what the individual average human knows about this. But as far as I'm concerned, extraterrestrial life is confirmed, and I don't think this is that big of a deal, to be honest. I'm not saying it's not interesting. Like, if you're alive in the moment, hey, you might want to check out the news reports. But just another walk around the block as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, hypothetically, it really should just be old hat at this point. Oh, that's interesting, another life. Now, I did find it very unusual. In the Trinity Wars newscast, she mentioned that they will form a owners, or not maybe not owners, but they will form a life form on Earth. And I'm not sure how they know that, the news media. Obviously, UNIT knows that. And
Well,
Miss Exposition was able to inform Barclay of that,
well, I
which is
wonder because the whole point is that when Unit was first approached by the Sea Devils, I guess technically Unit went out to try to communicate with them. The Sea Devils then decided to communicate not just with this Unit task force, but with all of humanity as a whole. So they're talking in multiple groups to multiple people. So pretty much gave Unit no choice but to say, oh, hey, yeah, the Sea Devils are real and they are here. Because it did mention that in the past, Unit, of course, knew they existed and had suppressed evidence and called like it a hoax and fake and such, which doesn't really give them a great look when it comes to things like Think Tank on the side note. It's just Unit line. But my point being that the Sea Devils sort of took that choice out of their hands and addressed all of humanity as opposed to just the military, which is it's not a bad choice.
no, it's a very smart decision. It's perhaps the only way they could have finagled this. So they could actually have a potential peace and recognition. Now, the name of the show being the war between the land and the sea means that perhaps peace is not going to be the option.
Well, and it's also not clear they even want peace. I mean, that speech, it's like, hey, you killed my children with oil, bruh. I mean, we don't know even if the Sea Devil's intention is peace, to be fair.
I mean,
But they
okay,
are
but
they are willing, of course, to name Barclay as an ambassador. So maybe they're at least willing to talk. I'm just saying we don't necessarily know what their intentions are.
and see, here's the thing: like, if they don't want peace, then they're probably on the right. Because I know what humans do, so I'll probably take them over humans no matter what they do. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if oil and the environmental pollution, which is real, has killed the children, like metaphorically or otherwise, or physically, then they should certainly get some type of reparations for that.
To be honest, I never even thought about environmental pollution until I saw Praxis. It really opened my eyes to the dangers of the ocean, you know?
Jesus Christ. That's like not thinking about racism unless you've seen Rosa.
Oh, that's a good point. I really did it until I saw Rosa, you know?
Right. But either way, like, it's not any mystery that pollution damages the ocean. So, like, I can understand that companies can maybe scored out of it saying, oh, well, we didn't know people lived in the ocean. Oh, well, maybe they're not people, which I'm sure is a conversation that's they're going to try to also argue. Maybe they don't want peace, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because no matter what warmongers might be on the Sea Devil side, we know for a fact there's going to be warmongers on the human side. As generally nice as Daniel Austin Pierce was in this episode, and like I said, I think there's kind of a dick in Children of Earth. Everyone knows a dick in Children of Earth. So he still seemed a bit. Now he's a Daniel, so I get it. He seemed a bit more military minded than perhaps you would want as a Daniel who first went to investigate this incident in the Mediterranean. Now, they didn't know what they were going into was going to lead to actual worldwide implications, because obviously they wanted to keep it on the down low, but the Sea Devils left them no choice in that instance. And that was, I think, actually not a bad juxtaposition, going from the very dark scene during the conversation of the Sea Devils to the gradual reveal that, no, they're just popping up all over the world. We see Chinese media, we see American media, we see UK media. So it got out, and like I said, it's probably wise for them to go that route because that was the only way they're going to get any actual recognition as a species, at least potentially recognition. And I don't know if there are warmongers on their side. I side with the Sea Devil warmongers. Hashtag go Sea Devils. Better than hashtag kill the fish, which
Well,
I saw on one of those, I don't know, was it Instagram?
it was one of those social media things, and I made the joke, and by joke I mean it's probably true. That account is probably an American account, so.
By the way, I noticed it mentioned that the president said something almost reasonable, so I wonder if Trump's president in the Doctor Who universe. Oh, maybe it's that one guy from the Chibnall era. Maybe he became president.
Yeah, he appeared multiple times. I still have no idea what his name is, and I don't really care.
Jack Robertson or something to that effect.
It's just a generic name. It's not the name of a real character. Fucking Jack Bryce, you'd be trolling. But yeah, I feel like this episode is okay. Barclay is sad but sort of like an Ari man. He doesn't have honestly a ton of personality yet. He's just like, I don't know, he's just a guy. It's sort of funny. It seems like he's primarily involved in this due to a clerical error to begin with, because he was Sad Abba Salmon's replacement almost like I don't know if I'd say accidentally, but he's like listed on file as a replacement for this one guy, and he's not even qualified necessarily to be there. And it's like a position to be like, oh, I forget how they phrase it, like a citizen to be with a unit to help witness theoretically important things or things that could be important. I'm not sure how long units cared about that type of thing. I feel like most of the time, unit would have like a citizen there recording, but hey, maybe it's a new Kate Lethbridge-Stewart initiative.
Maybe, but then she also had them shoot down the media drone. So, give and take, I guess.
Well, that you could probably excuse as, hey, maybe the Sea Devils would want to be recorded. I mean, they could have made other demands, like they built the whole waterway for them. So if they had wanted like civilian media there, they could have said, hey, make sure the media's there, fam.
Yeah, see, but that's a thing where I think the humans would have said no.
Yeah, we didn't see any of the background back and forth. We have no idea how long it was between the meeting on the shore and then the actual meeting on the Thames. I'm going to imagine it was a couple weeks. I actually don't know. Maybe there was some type of time indication in the episode that I didn't notice. But I mean, to build a waterway like that, I have to imagine it would take a bit of time anyway. So
I would expect so. But honestly, I kind of like Barclay. You're right that he was just, you didn't say generic, but he's just a guy. He's a guy, he has a kid, has an ex-wife, just does his job, accidentally, due to a clerical error, becomes maybe not wealthy, but certainly gets more money than he did. And I do enjoy how the Daniel Austin Pierce just kind of rolled with it. Like, yeah, he was surprised, but it only took him a second to say, you know what, okay, basically.
yeah, I'll say that was like the one piece of dialogue in the episode. Like most of it, I want to be clear, I'm not saying the episode wasn't good, but most of the episode dialogue is just sort of generic. But I do think that one bit, like, oh hey, like accidents is how history is made and such, and I think that line, and he phrased it far more elegantly. I thought that actually sounded quite nice. And like James said, he just sort of rolled with Barclay being there. And like James mentioned earlier, actually, the doctor was mentioned once because apparently Barclay met him briefly during what I would imagine is not like something in the tower. So I'm going to assume it was either somewhere in Reality War, the gig, or anything that took place in Unit Tower. We have no idea actually which incident he's talking about. But he did meet the doctor briefly once. So it's good stuff.
And he recalled the doctor as, I think it was a vivid, it could have been vibrant actually. It was a V word, regardless. And, I mean, that certainly Tsujigawa qualifies as either. So
I do sort of doubt his idea that, hey, he thought about that every day for the rest of his life after meeting the doctor, after like just talking to him for a few seconds. But I guess if you're face to face with a legend and you're working for a unit, you see the doctor for even a few seconds, maybe that makes a big impact. But no, man.
yeah, see, I quite enjoyed. I have no idea what the character's name was, but the character from Under the Lake Before the Flood, who had read all the Doctor's unit files and was basically fangirling over the Doctor being there. Like that was somebody who I would believe would think about meeting the Doctor for a second every single second of every day. But this guy just seems like a guy.
Yeah, it just seems like he has no big passion. He's just sort of doing his stuff, going through the motions. And like I said, that may just be his personality. Maybe it's just like some middle age. Well, I guess he's not middle age, he's younger, but just some younger British repressed guy. But he's fine. And I imagine down the line, as we get to episodes 2, 3, 4, we will see some more emotional range from him. I would certainly expect so. Especially since like one of the posters I'm seeing literally shows him face to face with the leader of the Sea Devils in like some War v land and sea type thing. So maybe it's going to lead a nice infantry into the Sea Devils lay and fight with guns. It's going to be fun.
That seems terrible. But honestly, no, I take an opposite look at the guy. He's just doing his job. Like at the end of the day, this is just a sift to him. And he was then thrown into the spotlight out of nowhere. No one was expecting him to be declared by the Sea Devils the ambassador of Earth. Now, granted, at least he was in a nice suit, so it kind of works out. But he's just a guy, and I kept like he has his own stuff going on. I'm sure that he has passions and whatnot. I do enjoy. We didn't see much of them, but I liked Colby just because they seem kind of chill. They're just, yeah, whatever. I'll go back to mom's house in the middle of the night because you got a phone call out of literally nowhere. Oh yeah, there's an army person there. Yeah, I don't really care that much. I don't know. The personality I found kind of amusing, and maybe that proves that aliens are odd hat at this point to the human population. But honestly, that leads me into honestly the last major thing I have to talk about. I thought this had actually not bad writing. Maybe it's not the most impressive opener for any miniseries, but these characters, I would say, on the whole, actually felt like characters. Like I did really enjoy, and I didn't even write down her name in the notes. The wife or the ex-wife of Barclay, but the way that she was acting and Barclay was acting and Kobe were acting out together, they seemed like an actual family. You know, it's functional. Not families aren't just these perfect entities. They seemed realistic to me in ways that have been a little lacking in RTD's recent work, in my opinion.
I think the best fun dynamic we've gotten in semi-recent Doctor Who was Yas and whole family. I like that.
I mean, I don't know if that's a joke or not. I actually didn't really like the dynamic all that much either. Like, it was kind of fine with the sister, but the mother didn't do much for me, the father. But we'll talk about all that later. All I know is that from the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who, Ruby's family didn't do much for me. Belinda didn't really even have a family dynamic. She mentioned her parents like once in Lux, I think it was. Maybe there's another one. Who knows? Who really cares? And I don't know, it actually seemed like a real family. And on the whole, the characters seemed fine. This, honestly, to me, feels like it could have been another Torchwood season. I know it's based on Unit, not Torchwood, but it had to me the same vibe as both Miracle Day and Children of Earth. Plus, with it being a miniseries, Children of Earth was also just 5 episodes.
Yeah, which I guess maybe the best comparison. I don't really have a ton of expectations with episodes coming up. I'm sure overall it'll be fine. Like I'm not blown away. I did dislike it. I just largely think the episode is sort of there. And to be honest, I feel like, and again, I have not seen any reactions. I don't know how people online are talking about this, but I suspect that most people who watch this are probably going to think it was okay. I thought production-wise, it looked nice. I thought most of the special effects looked good. There's a scene
Yeah,
in which 2 unit soldiers were killed by like the sand of a beach becoming sort of like quicksand type stuff. It was sort of cool. So it looked nice. And I just hope that we have a decent story and this set up things decently enough. I just hope that they can do something with it in 4 episodes that they have left.
yeah, I enjoy the horror vibe leading into becoming more of a political vibe halfway through the episode. I thought that was done rather nicely. And I don't know. I don't have hopes. This to me is going to be what Guardians of the Galaxy was to me. Because when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU, I was wondering why the hell are they making a Guardians of the Galaxy movie? Now I'm going to point out Guardians of the Galaxy were not this huge big thing. At least from my understanding in Marvel at the time. They seemed like a C-tier Marvel team at best. Really at best, if not detail. Now maybe there had been a recent revamp at the time, but to be fair, Marvel revamps every single year at this point, everything. I cannot keep track with what Marvel's doing. I truly can't. If someone can, and please let me know in the comments and let me know how you keep track, because it's absurdity from an outside point of view. But I didn't know they were making a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I don't know what is going to happen in this series that is going to warrant there being a 5 episode miniseries about the goddamn Sea Devils. I have no dislike of the Sea Devils. I actually enjoy the original Sea Devils serial, although admittedly, and it's not the Sea Devils' fault, I don't remember a single thing about Warriors of the Deep. Do you remember anything about that serial?
Well, only thing I remember about it is both the Solarians and the Sea Devils appeared. And that's pretty much it. I'm just pretty sure Micra, I forget how it's pronounced. I think one of those things appeared too.
Oh, I liked it. I remember them, kind of. I remember people made fun of how it looked, but I actually thought they were joyful.
Yeah, I just compare them. I don't even. I'm assuming is that a Sea Devil thing or is it no? That's a Solarian thing, right? I don't remember. I sort of compared it to the Sea Devil slash Solarian version of the Slither, to be honest.
That's actually probably not a bad comparison at all. But yeah, no, I also have no expectations for this series. I don't really know why it exists, but the production seems good. I have no real complaints with the designs of the Sea Devils, either the ones that are more Sea Devil-y that we got at the beginning, or the more human-like. What do they call it? I'm not going to remember the name they came up with on this spot for the one who speaks English and Russian. But either way, I thought all the design looked fine. Like the thing is, I've consistently said this. I don't really pay attention to things of that nature. If something looks bad, I guess I might notice it. But on the whole, I just roll with the story. And yeah, maybe it's a bit of a slow beginning, but I enjoyed the episode. I've really no complaints about it. I thought it set up Barclay pretty well. It set up his family pretty well, which I'm sure is going to come into things. Especially, I just realized Barclay's family didn't realize he was hired out. They think that he's doing some temp job, basically, some admin work. And now now granted, this isn't public information, but it's going to get out that he's probably going to be speaking on behalf of humanity. So that might cause some conflict at home. But luckily, he doesn't live with his ex-wife. He lives in another apartment. So hopefully it won't be too bothersome on a family level for him. On the whole, I actually rather enjoyed this one.
And it's worth mentioning that even if this episode is a little slow, it was released back to back with episode 2. So probably doesn't even matter if it was, because you could just jump to the second episode and move on. Which I imagine, on the side note, not that this matters now, but IRL, I imagine that's what we are just about to do, immediately jump into the second episode. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I don't know when things are going to, like, I guess, blow up. Maybe episode 3 or 4. No idea. Like I said, with the miniseries with only 5 episodes, technically I have a ton of time to play with. But yeah, that's all I had for this one. Okay, opening, and I guess we'll just see how it goes. And I wonder if we'll get any more references to, like, consider that theoretically, there are people like Dana and Hodauda Rose, and I'm trying to think, Mal, all these people work for UNIT technically?
Yeah, but what do they know in the way of the Sea Devils?
Yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if any of that's going to matter or come up, and I sort of doubt it. And I don't blame them. To be fair, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't. I'm just saying from, like, a chronological standpoint, I still want to know what the fuck happened with Morris. Like, I suspect he just died off screen during some unit mission, and they just didn't give a fuck because he's a kid, and well, that's what unit does.
Maybe the Lynx comes back and
Oh,
will
that's a good
actually
point.
do something.
It's a good point. I even think about the Lynx, but maybe they could be ambassador.
Lynx is the ambassador. That's hilarious. No. Yeah, I have no expectations, but I don't hate it so far. I question its existence and can't really justify them making 5 episodes out of it. But for what we said, it's fine. And I'm not dreading watching the next episodes, which I was with Inhumans. And I could name other shows. So hey, it's going fine so far.
Yeah, but that's all we've got. By all means, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Brothers Mahoney. or comment down below if you have any thoughts on this episode. You like to share any. It's hard to say share anything you think's coming out because we only have 5 episodes, and I really just think it's going to matter. But hey, yeah, just share your thoughts down below. That's all I've got. Anything else on your end?
No, I have nothing. It's
Indeed.
fine so far. Fingers crossed.
That is the best way we can watch this, with fingers crossed. But as always, thanks for listening. This has been Michael.
And I've been James.
You've been enjoying the Brothers Mahoney. Peace out, homie.